Becquerel, and let's begin with the top stories this hour. Finance Committee seeks the overall details on the NCL share transactions. Ministers and officials involved in decision regarding capital gain tax also questioned. Draft of proposed land policy presented at Parliament. Minimum and maximum price of lands to be determined. Move anticipated to curb tax evasion and irregularities. Government prepares to keep chief administrative officers of local governments under the centre's jurisdiction, criticized of being against the norms of federalism. And Manchester City thrashes Chelsea 6-0 in the English Premier League match last night. City returns to the top of the league table following the victory. The Parliament's Finance Committee has sought details on the first 12 shares transactions of private telecommunications service provider NCL. The committee summoned Finance Minister Yuvraj Kantipur yesterday and sought details on the Finance and Communications Secretaries, Director General of Inland Revenue Department and heads of Last Taxpayer Office, among others. The committee asked details with the officials regarding the decisions related to capital gains tax during the handing over of NCL's share on the 11th and 12th occasions. The committee has also directed the government to collect the company's capital gain tax soon after the Supreme Court comes up with a complete verdict regarding the case. The court had earlier ruled that the purchase of NCL was entitled to the capital gains tax and had directed to collect the amount from both the NCL and its buyer, Axiata. Finance Minister Kantipur said that the actual amount of tax to be collected in this regard after the Supreme Court decision. The government has yet to collect tax amounting to more than 72.62 billion rupees from 9 different private telecom companies, including NCL. The Land Revenue Department is the entity to determine the price of lands owned by individuals or companies. However, different banks, courts and corruption watchdog CIA have been determining different prices for a same land during verification processes in order to do away with the instances of tax evasion and other irregularities due to not having uniformity in evaluating the land's prices. The government is preparing to introduce the land policy for the first time. Due to having the unified land policy, the price of a single piece of land has been determined differently by different authorities at the moment. For instance, land's price is evaluated by the Land Revenue Office during registration, by banks while being used as collateral, by CIA during court cases and by courts during security purposes. As the trend has led to the increase in tax evasion and whitewashing illegal property, the government now is to determine the minimum and maximum price of land via a new land policy. Meanwhile, the Land Management Ministry has submitted the draft of the policy at the Cabinet. After endorsement, authorities will not be allowed to make different evaluations for a single piece of land. The draft has also proposed for the establishment of a government bank meant for transactions, limited to lands only. The ministry is of the view that the new provision would end the involvement of middlemen during land transactions and do away with the instances of extra expenses incurred during acquisition of land for development projects. Experts, however, have said that such irregularities would end only via strict legal measures rather than only the policy. The government has started adjusting staff at the central, provincial and local levels by introducing ordinance in this regard. On the other hand, a separate law is being formulated to keep the provincial chief secretaries and secretaries along with chief administrative officers of municipalities and rural municipalities under the federal government's jurisdiction. This has raised question if the federal government is trying to confine the authority of both the provincial and local governments to itself. The Civil Service Bill presented at the Parliament proposed to keep the administrative officers of the provincial and local levels under the central government itself. As per the proposed provision, the Federal Affairs Ministry is to take decision on the deployment of staff at both municipality and rural municipalities, and that the chief secretaries and secretaries of provinces would remain the federal government staff. The ministry has claimed that such a provision is going to be introduced to ensure coordination between the central and provincial governments, citing that federalism had yet to attain maturity. However, the provincial governments are of the view that the provision would confine the loyalty of the staff to the central government and would also hamper the performance of provincial governments. Police have failed to identify and punish the culprits involved in the rape and murder of Kantipur's Nirmala Panta despite months since the heinous crime. After the National Human Rights Commission concluded that the case could not be solved via the mere DNA test, the police now have been confronted with the challenge to nab the murderer based on thorough and stepwise investigation. The Commission has advised the government not to rely on the DNA report, citing that there were errors during the collection of samples and examination process itself. The vaginal swab acquired by the police, however, has been proved to be that of murdered girl child Nirmala Panta following a sample investigation on her mother. The police have now directed its investigation also towards the information, incident sites, and other relevant facts regarding the crime after realizing that the DNA test alone would not help sort out the case. Experts have stressed on the need of identifying the culprit at the earliest while making sure that not a single innocent is framed or prosecuted with regard to the case. The public's complaints about dismal service delivery at land revenue offices have turned rampant in recent days. In this contest, we had asked the service seekers at Palpa Land Revenue Office, what's their take on the service delivery at the office? Let's take a look at what they had to say.
Public voice.
यो भएन भन्नुहुन्छ फेरि गयो ल्यायो अहिले बल्ल यत्रो 3-4 चोटिमा बल्ल अहिले बन्या छ बन्न सुरु भएको छ अब बन्न र नबन्नलाई अझै पनि निदो छैन
कम्प्युटर माध्यमबाट चाहिँ मालपोत सेवा प्रवाह गर्ने र अनि आएका सेवा गराइहरुलाई पनि राम्रो तरिकाको रेस्पोन्स गर्ने अनि चाहिँ सेवा गराइप्रति उत्तरदायी हुने कर्मचारीहरु भयो भने मालपोतको सेवा प्रवाहमा अलिकति केही सुधार आउँछ
सबै कुरो राम्रो गरिदिनु भएको अलमा लगाइदिनु भएको हैन त्यस्तो आफू घाम तापेर बसेको भयो भने बोलाएर साएर गर्नु भएको
भित्र अफिसमा चाहिँ नि अरु मान्छे जान नपाउने त्यही अफिसको मान्छेले गाइड गर्छ तपाई यो ठाउँमा जानुस् यो ठाउँमा जानुस् भनेर अब त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अलिकति सेवा गर्नलाई फाइदा हुन्छ
कर्मचारीले रिजाउनु भएन भने त्यो फाइल तल घुस्रिने अवस्था रहन्छ त्योबाट बच्नको लागि हामीले अनलाइन सुविधाहरू गरेर अनलाइन सुविधाबाट जनताले सुविधा पाउन सक्छन् भन्ने कुरा एक हदसम्म हुन सक्ला
रजिस्ट्रेसनका कुराहरू सबै बैंकिङ कारोबार नै गर्ने
It's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
And the question is, what's your take on the preparation to bring the chief administrative officers of local levels under the central government's jurisdiction? And options are A, against norms of federalism, the lack of coordination, and C, transitional outlet. The voting is on. Type in the WF, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Now the sports update.
Sports news.
Manchester City striker Sergio Aguero has struck his second hat-trick in a week as the champions ruthlessly destroyed Chelsea in a 6-0 win last night to return to the top of the English Premier League. While Liverpool's 3-0 win over Bournemouth on Saturday got sore talk of title-running nerves and Merseyside, this City victory on Sunday, achieved with some glorious football against the top-6 opponent, was an emphatic statement. City have now scored 33 goals in their last 5 home games in all competitions and have a chance of lifting their first silverware of the season when they face Chelsea again at Wembley in the League Cup final on February 24th. City and Liverpool are both on 65 points, with City having the better goal difference, although they have played one more game than their rivals. Third place Tottenham Hotspur, who beat Leicester City 3-1 earlier on Sunday, are 5 points behind. Cristiano Ronaldo was on hand to head Juventus to victory as they beat Sassuolo 3-0 last night and restored an 11-point cushion at the summit of Serie A. Sami Khedira scored his first goal since the opening game of the season, but Ronaldo's second-half header secured the 3 points to keep the Turin Giants looking comfortable at the top. Emre Can came off the bench and joined German compatriot Khedira on the score sheet with his first touch. Ronaldo started for the Benio Coneri, while Paulo Dybala was benched for the second game in succession by manager Massimiliano Allegri and only came on in the 83rd minute. And before we wrap up, a reminder of the top stories. Finance Committee seeks the overall details on MCL share transactions. Ministers and officials involved in decision regarding capital gains tax also questioned. Draft of proposed land policy presented at Parliament, minimum and maximum price plans to be determined. Move anticipated to curb tax evasion and irregularities. Government prepares to keep chief administrative officers of local governments under the jurisdiction of central government, criticized of being against the norms of federalism. And Manchester City's rises Chelsea 6-0 in the English Premier League match last night. City returns to the top of the league's table following the victory. And that's all for this hour. Keep watching Kantipur Television SD for more news and entertainment. Goodbye for now.